"You're not my type," Mr. Carrington had said, moments before crushing me against the office door like I was air and he had forgotten how to breathe. Funny how rejection sounds different when it's whispered through clenched teeth and trembling hands. The first time I met Ashton Carrington, I thought he was a machine. CEO of Carrington Global. Eyes like wet steel. Voice like a court sentence. No small talk. No smiles. No humanity. And yet, for the last 9 months, I had been his executive assistant, meaning I fetched his coffee, tracked his meetings, and bore the weight of his silence. Most people cracked under his gaze. I'd seen VPs leave his office teary-eyed. But me? I smiled and said, "Yes, sir." Even when he looked through me like I was part of the furniture. I never imagined he actually noticed me. Until last Thursday. It started with a typo. He'd been pacing the office at midnight. I was the only one still there, editing his keynote slides like my rent depended on it because, well, it did. "You changed the word from drive to devour," he said, voice low and unreadable. I froze. It sounded more powerful. He stared at me like I just slapped him. Then something cracked in him. Something dark and hungry. He took a step closer. Then another. And I wasn't breathing. "You don't get to decide what sounds powerful," he said, but there was something in his voice. Something that wasn't anger. It was need. Raw. Animal. I should have stepped back. But I didn't. Because part of me wanted to know if the rumors were true. That Ashton Carrington didn't feel. That he didn't want. But his hand on my tie, pulling me just slightly toward him, that felt like everything. He disappeared for 2 days after that. When he returned, the air between us had changed. He wouldn't look at me. But he also wouldn't stop calling me into his office for pointless updates. Meetings that could have been emails. Slides that didn't need fixing. The worst part? Every time I stepped in, he stood a little too close. Every time I spoke, his jaw clenched like he was fighting something. By Friday, it was unbearable. We were alone again. I handed him the sales report. "Q2 growth is exceeding." "Stop." I did. He walked around the desk. Stood toe to toe. "You don't understand," he said, voice cracking like thunder in a dry sky. "Try me," I whispered. That's when he grabbed me. Kissed me like he'd been starving for years. And I kissed him back like I'd never tasted power until now. But desire doesn't erase secrets. And Ashton had them. I found out 3 days later when a man with the same cold gray eyes showed up at the office. "Alpha's not supposed to mate with subordinates," he said, handing me a document. "Especially not when the board's watching." Alpha. The word buzzed in my skull like an old alarm clock. I thought that stuff was a myth. Dominance instincts in elite families. Packs and hierarchies. Things whispered about in Ivy League fraternities and hidden behind private wealth. But now I saw it. The way Ashton's shoulders squared when the man entered. The protective way he stood in front of me. The twitch in his jaw like he wanted to rip someone apart. He was hiding something feral under all that control. And it was unraveling fast. "I've always controlled everything," Ashton confessed one night, weeks later. We were in his penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city like gods bored with Olympus. My company. My emotions. My damn instincts. He looked at me like I was the one variable he couldn't solve. "I can't control this," he whispered. "Not around you." "Then don't." He kissed me again, softer this time. Less like a storm, more like surrender. But control doesn't die quietly. Especially not for men like Ashton Carrington. Things fell apart on a Monday. A leak to the press. A scandal headline. Carrington's CEO mated to assistant? Board demands answers. It wasn't even true. There was no mating. No bond. Not yet. But it didn't matter. The wolves were circling. HR launched an investigation. Shareholders panicked. And Ashton? He turned cold again. No words. No calls. Just silence. I tried to stay strong, tried to act like I didn't care. But every time I passed his office, it felt like walking past a closed door I used to call home. Then came the shareholders' meeting. Everyone expected Ashton to announce his resignation. Instead, he walked up to the podium. adjusted the mic, and said, "I fell in love." Gasps, flashes, whispers. He didn't flinch. "I fell in love with someone I work with, someone who makes me better, and worse, and everything in between. And I won't apologize for being human or for being alpha." He looked at me. His name is Elijah. And in that moment, I didn't care if the world burned, because he said my name like a promise. Of course, there were consequences. Board negotiations, public relations cleanup. Ashton had to step down as CEO temporarily. But he didn't lose everything, because he gained something else, something deeper. We moved in together 3 months later. Just a small place in Brooklyn. Nothing like his penthouse, but it felt more real. He still worked long hours, still barked orders at everyone except me. With me, he was different, softer, more honest. Sometimes he'd wake up in a sweat, afraid he'd lose control again. I'd hold him until the fear passed. Sometimes I'd doubt if I could live in his world, with its expectations and shadows. He'd kiss me until I forgot how to question anything. We never used the word mate, but we didn't have to, because he was mine, and I was his, not because of instinct, but because of choice. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.